Before planes were invented, people tried different ways to achieve flight, from riding kites to making wings, and the first successful flight, the evolution in flight. In 559 AD, during the Northern Qi dynasty, Emperor Wangxuan decided to test a peculiar idea involving kites. He ordered several prisoners. Among those prisoners was a man named Yuan Huangtu, to be launched from a tower using kites. The reason for this experiment was unclear at the time, but might have been an attempt to test the kite's stability or simply to entertain himself. Kites designed for flight were hardly suited for this purpose. Despite this, the prisoners were launched from the tower and they all died except Yuan Huangtu. His survival was remarkable, but his life was cut short as the emperor ordered his execution despite enduring the harsh experiment. In the 9th century, a brilliant inventor named Abbas ibn Firnas attempted one of the earliest human flights in history. He lived in Cordoba, a city in what is now Spain, and was fascinated by the idea of flying like a bird. Ibn Firnas was a true pioneer with interests spanning astronomy, engineering, and medicine. His flight experiment took place from the Tower of Cordoba, which was part of a grand mosque. For this daring venture, Ibn Firnas crafted a pair of wings covered in feathers, much like a bird's. The wings were designed to help him glide through the air, and he hoped to achieve controlled flight from a great height. When the day of the flight arrived, Ibn Firnas climbed to the top of the tower, ready to test his invention. With the crowd watching, he leaped off the tower and managed to glide for a short distance. His wings, though imaginative, were not perfect, and the glide was less stable than he had hoped. Sadly, the landing didn't go smoothly. Ibn Firnas crashed to the ground and suffered injuries from the rough landing. Despite the painful result, his attempt was a bold step in the quest for human flight. Even though he didn't achieve a perfect flight, his experiment showed that the dream of flying was possible and inspired future inventors. In the early 11th century, Aylmer of Malmesbury, an English Benedictine monk, embarked on an audacious experiment in flight. Aylmer, inspired by the idea of soaring like a bird, crafted a pair of wings from wood and covered them with cloth. His goal was to glide through the air, and he carefully designed his wings to mimic the natural movement of birds. With his wings strapped on, Aylmer climbed to a high point, likely a tower or a hill, to maximize his chances of achieving lift. He launched himself into the air with high hopes. For a brief moment, Aylmer succeeded in gliding, covering a modest distance before gravity took over. This short flight was a remarkable achievement, showcasing his innovative spirit and determination. However, the landing proved to be a significant challenge. Aylmer's attempt ended in disaster as he crashed to the ground, resulting in broken legs. Despite the painful outcome, his experiment was a courageous effort in early aviation. His attempt highlighted the difficulties of flight and the limitations of the technology available at the time. Aylmer's story is an inspiring chapter in the history of human flight. Although his experiment didn't achieve sustained flight, it represents a daring step towards understanding the principles of aerodynamics. In around 1509, John Damian, an Italian alchemist and abbot from Tonglen, Scotland, attempted one of the earliest known human-powered flights. The story comes from William Dunbar, a Scottish poet known for his satirical poems. According to Dunbar, Damian crafted wings out of feathers and other materials. Inspired by legends of flying, he chose Stirling Castle, a high fortress, as his launch site for the ambitious experiment. Damian strapped on his makeshift wings and leaped from the castle walls, hoping to soar through the sky. Instead, his flight ended in a dramatic crash. The wings failed to lift him, and he fell to the ground, injuring himself, but surviving the ordeal. While not fatal, were a testament to the folly and audacity of his experiment. The story of Damian's flight attempt is primarily derived from the satirical poetry of William Dunbar, a contemporary Scottish poet known for his sharp wit and critical commentary on the people and events of his time. Hezarfen Ahmed Chalabi's flight across the Bosphorus Strait between 1630 and 1632 is one of the most intriguing stories of early aviation. Hazarfen, whose name means thousand eyes, or Versatile Ahmed, was an Ottoman scholar with a passion for flight. According to legend, he constructed a pair of wings and successfully glided from the Galata Tower on Istanbul's European side to the Üsküdar district on the Asian side, covering roughly 3 kilometers, 1.8 miles. This remarkable feat took place during a period when understanding of flight was rudimentary. Flight was witnessed by Ottoman officials and amazed the local people, showcasing an impressive blend of engineering and daring. In 1783, Jean-François Pilatre de Rosier made history as the first person to fly in a hot air balloon, the Montgolfier balloon, created by the French brothers Joseph Michel and Jacques-Étienne Montgolfier, had already made headlines with its uncrewed test flights carrying animals. These early flights proved that hot air could lift objects, setting the stage for human flight. On June 4, 1783, Pilatre de Rosier took to the skies in a Montgolfier balloon tethered to the ground. Although the flight was short, lasting about 5 minutes and reaching a height of 3,000 feet, it was a groundbreaking achievement. Pilatre de Rosier's successful ascent demonstrated that humans could safely travel in the air and sparked a wave of interest in aviation. From early dreams to modern marvels, flight has come a long way. Who knows what's next?